Hello!
Hello AOS fans!
It's the agents of Gnarlwood.
In this video we've got a whole new look Warhammer Underworld's battle report.
Yes, we're doing a finale of a best of three we've been working through of Nurgle versus Khorne, Dromm's Gorechosen versus the Wurmspat.
Oh, and it's been an absolute humdinger actually.
It has, yes.
I crushed you in the first game.
Yep, no spoilers obviously, but I lost the first game horrifically.
And then you beat me in the second game. And actually I'm on the ropes. You've in the other games we've been playing in and around, you've beaten me quite a lot. I'm going into this third game feeling a little bit despondent.
I think in the second game your attack rolls completely deserted
did one in your
you.
game. In the first game yours did.
Yes.
I killed all of your...
yeah.
And I did annihilated you, and in the second game it was pretty much the other way around.
Yes, so we're going to this one. It's one apiece, and we want to see who is going to reign supreme. Is it going to be Khorne or Nurgle?
Oh.
Now, we have already rolled and set up the boards and all the models, and we can just go through our cards with you and what we kept and what we had to reshuffle at the start. So, Robin, how about you?
Yeah, I drew no surges. So I thought, well, I'm just going to try and play for blood claim. Score this in invasive one-on-war friendly fighters, each hold an objective within 1 hex of no one's territory. That's pretty good, and it doubles nicely with conquered domain, which is score this in invasive if there is a friendly fighter on a feature token within 1 hex of no one's territory, and I get an additional one if I can have any others on hexes within no one's territory on feature tokens. It's not great for the Gorechosen. It's a brilliant one for certain warbands. It's not great for the Gorechosen because you absolutely top maximum of 3 on there, but they were what I was aiming for in the first game. I kept all of my ploys mainly because it had Domain of Fury, which meant that you would have to move.
That one, yeah, that completely screwed me up in the first game because my main aim is to sit back.
Exactly, and if you wanted to make a move action and jump onto an objective, which I knew you were after that trilobe, then you basically had to finish closer to me. So that was really why I kept it. And I did draw 4 ploys, so a reshuffle was likely to see me having too many upgrades. Ping damage with Blood Boil is really quite good. And their early cards, they're all restricted to Dromm, you notice. So I thought, well, actually, Dromm's likely to be alive in the first game.
I didn't realise how many cards are restricted to Dromm.
Because all his prayers are restricted to him. They're not magic. They're prayers. Not magic. They're prayers. It's completely different.
So I had actually gotten rid of all of my cards. I shuffled back in my power cards and my objectives, and I wasn't massively happy with what I drew either, which maybe tells me that maybe there's something up with this deck, but it wasn't a deck I built, and so I just had to go with it. I did have some ping damage in there with quick roots. I had a few upgrades which I didn't see being much use to me early in the game with Stolid Bulk and Conqueror's Circlet, but Unnatural Vitality to give me some extra movement and Gift of Contagion, which was a handy spell from Fecula. I figured they might be useful. The objectives, however, were not very handy. I had Sudden Demise, which is to take somebody out with a lethal hex, or by Gambit, which I didn't see happening considering your guys are all pretty tough. Nurgle's Garden Grows is a third end phase card, so I pretty much just had to give up with that one and brave the Root Maze. It was a surge card at least that I figured I could score. I had to get 3 people onto hexes, but I didn't know you were going to be affecting my movement, so that is something that could screw me up. I'd won the initial roll-off and picked the board so that I could get 3 objectives, and you'd place them pretty much head-on with each other.
Yeah, I'm still not sure of how to place the boards, but I have learned, I think, for playing Fortress deck, you do want to try and give yourself as longer frontage as possible. Otherwise, you can end up with only 1 objective or 1 feature token along that sort of 3 line rows in the middle that you need to try and get feature tokens on. So that's what I did. I mean, it's a pretty standard setup. I think I've set up pretty much the same way in every single game, just the 3 fighters at the front, Dromm at the front, and then the other 2 really, because they've got a card. I don't know if I drew it this time, but there is a card where you can push people forward to 1 hex, which is very useful.
I've set up very similarly to how I've done previously, as far back as I can get with as many of the objectives as far back as possible, so that I can try and get on them. This deck is all about sitting back as far as possible and just waiting for the enemy to come to you whilst trying to ping damage them. So
yeah, I'm quite scared of the Sacred Trilobe at this point, but I'm hoping I can get on 3 feature tokens myself to score the similar objective. And of course, I placed the Fearsome Fortress plot card. Again, you put 2 together in the hope that you then can place a 3rd later to score the relevant objective for having 3 together.
So on to round 1, and Robin failed to get any crits as I had started to set up my models first. We both had 3. That meant I could choose who went first, and I decided to take the initiative. On my first activation, I just moved Fecula onto that first objective. I want to get as many bodies onto objectives as possible as quickly as I can.
Yeah, I placed Dromm where I placed him to enable me when I played Domain of Fury. It meant that Pete had to move directly towards me, or at least towards me, and couldn't jump on the other objectives, which I was quite pleased about. So for my first move, I jumped onto an objective. Now, I hadn't intended to go onto this objective. I wanted to take those 2 feature tokens close to each other. But when I realised I played the Domain of Fury, I wanted to make sure that Pete had to come away from the objectives. So already, although that was good in some respects, already my plans had sort of gone awry. I wanted to try and keep the Gorehulk and Dromm together, and they had already separated them.
Onto my second activation, I could actually move Golgok such that he could get onto an objective and stay the same distance away from Dromm, so he hadn't completely screwed me up just yet, but Septimus was going to be in completely the wrong place on his turn.
Still with that objective in mind, on my second activation, I moved Gorehulk onto an objective 2.
At this point, I then played Quick Roots to do 1 damage to the Gorehulk. He's a big chunky lad and I wanted to try and start stripping those wounds off him as quickly as possible. But I realised afterwards I probably should have played it when Dromm moved to put the wound on him, because I need to spread out my wounds as much as possible, because you've only got 3 fighters. I need to do 1 wound on each before I can inspire. I then play Unnatural Vitality to give +1 move to all my fighters, because they're not fast and I need to suddenly close that distance now so I can be close to one of Robin's fighters when I want to get onto an objective.
Fast moving Nurgle is a bad thing.
So onto my third activation, and I charge Septimus against the Gorehulk, moving onto that feature token. I get 1 sword and 1 hammer.
Yeah, I only get a dodge and take 2 damage.
Wham!
And I'm pushed back, which most annoyingly is I'm now off an objective. And I want to be on objectives.
And you've taken 3 wounds as well, so the Gorehulk is in a little bit of trouble.
He is.
I then score Brave the Root Maze, because all 3 of my fighters are on feature hexes or cover hexes or anything like that. So that gives me 1 glory, and I draw Sleepless Sentries, which gets all of Robin's fighters near my fighters, so now I've got to try and score that one. I then immediately spend this glory on Conqueror's Circlet on Fecula, because I figure she's probably going to have to run up the board now to try and keep all of Robin's fighters near mine to be able to score that Sleepless Sentry.
One small consolation that all my plans are falling around me is that I have got an extra Blood Tithe token from the damage that you did to me.
True.
I did play Call of Blood in that power step, and I moved 2 fighters. So I pushed the Gorehulk and Herex up, put the Gorehulk back on the objective, and because he's only moved so far, he can actually have a go at Septimus. So I attack him, and I use my choking grip, I roll the dice, and I miss.
Oh dear, you're after swords, got hammers, story as old as time.
I am denied because he's got 2 attacks, one uses hammers, one uses swords, and the hammers was slightly more. I just wanted to do some damage because he would then inspire, because he had 3 Blood Tithe tokens on him, so I thought, well, I'll go for the most likely, even though it doesn't do the most damage. And the swords came up.
On my final activation, I move Fecula up. Now, she's a bit close to the rest of Robin's fighters, but I wanted to try and make sure that all of Robin's fighters were close enough so that I could score that Sleepless Sentries at the end of the round.
But I am fortunate that I have Blood Boil in hand, and I cause 1 damage to Fecula.
Yes, unfortunately, ping damage can't be stopped by the Nurgle special ability, so that is something they're quite susceptible to.
Yeah. So for my 4th activation, I charge with Herax, hoping to do some more damage to Fecula. I get a single assist, but Pete stops it with a shield.
Raw! Chunky Fecula manages to just bat him aside.
So not happy about that.
At the end of the first round, I do manage to score Sleepless Sentries because all of Robin's fighters are within 2 hexes of one of my fighters. I then get rid of the other 2 objectives, because frankly I don't think I'm ever going to score them, and I put Stolid Bulk onto Golgok, and I discard the Gift of Contagion.
I'm not a fan of Stolid Bulk. Makes them difficult to shift.
Yeah, stops them getting pushed around anywhere. I then draw 3 new objectives and 4 power cards.
I did score Conquered Domain for 2 because I had 2 fighters on objectives and Blood Claim for another 1, so that gave me 3 total. I discarded Raise the Walls and put Retaliate on Dromm because it's the only upgrade I've got, and I keep the last card. So I draw 3 objectives and 4 new power cards. Going into round 2, my power cards, I've got a 3-2 distribution now, but that's okay because I've got some glory under my belt. I've got Wound the Realm, which enables me to deal 1 damage, choose a fighter within 1 hex of no one's territory, and I'm hopeful of being able to use that. I've got Bloody Worshipper, which is a card I almost discarded, but actually has been clutch, I think, in all 3 games, because it does give somebody a Blood Tithe attack, which does mean you've got to have somebody inspired, probably, in round 3. Skin of Brass is always a frustrating card, that minus damage attack actions.
Giving the Nurgle a taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, exactly. Powerful Hatred is not the best card for these guys, it does give you support, which is good. And sharpen by range, in the declare attack action, you can remove one of this fighter's blood tie takers to pick cleave or ensnare or knockback. Now that's the card that I didn't use to good effect in the previous game. I didn't choose knockback, but cleave against Nurgle is imperative, I think.
Yes, definitely.
Objective-wise, Puissant Strike. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter attack action takes the enemy fighter out of action. If the damage dealt by the attack action was exactly enough to take the enemy fighter out of action. Probably not going to score that.
Tricky against Nurgle.
Yeah, it's one of these. This is one of those ones where there's just certain matchups where certain cards aren't great. Similarly, a Brutal Reckoning, just score this immediately after a friendly fighter attack action that takes an enemy fighter out of action. I might score that, but it's just going to have to wait and see. But I have got Untouchable Fury, which is a good card to have in hand because I just have to not die when I've taken some damage.
And you're unlikely to because you're all pretty big. And I notice you have 3 surges as well.
Yeah.
I, on my second set of cards, am not still very happy with what I've got, which is maybe a very bad sign with this deck. I've got 2 upgrades, one for Golgok and a range attack for either Fecular or Golgok. I think that Putrid Vomit is handy for when I'm further away in the earlier rounds and I can start peppering you with shots. Unfortunately, I'm already up in your grill here, so I don't know how good that one's going to be. Zone of Control is very handy for me though, because it gets everyone on guard who's on a starting hex or a feature token, which I plan on doing a lot. Gift of Contagion, which if I cast, I can force one of your fighters to do 1 less damage, which is always handy. And Flame Wisps, which is a great way of ping damaging somebody again. So there's still some options in there for ping damage, so I can try and spread out those wounds to inspire. My objectives are frankly terrible. I've got Blessed Endurance, which is a surge card, but I only score it when an attack with a damage characteristic 3 or more targets a friendly fighter and doesn't kill them. I think you only have 1 fighter with a damage 3 attack, so I don't rate my chances of scoring that one. And the other 2 are not surges, they're end phase cards. One is cast 2 or more spells with Rotbringers, which should be possible, and the other is Faithful Reward, which is if I can get all my fighters inspired, I'll score that one. So only 3 glory on the line here and only 1 surge, which isn't that great, so I'm not very enthusiastic about round 2. So it's time for the roll-off for round 2. I get a single and a double assist.
And I get 2 crits.
He's back with the double crits
Back with the double crits are very important, I think. I'm thinking I can maybe take down Fecular early. Just get in there. I've got to attack. So that's what I'm going to do. So I do attack with Fecular with Herax, who redeems herself from the previous round and gets a crit, causes 2 damage. And then, much to Pete's chagrin, I use Wound the Realm to kill Fecular. So that was very good going first.
Yeah, that scores you a glory there. It takes out Fecular, which stops me being able to score one of my objectives, which is cast 2 spells.
Oh, yes.
And also means one of my upgrades, which is Fecular specific, is less use than it was before. To get a bit of revenge, I play Flame Wisps from Golgok onto Dromm, and I managed to roll 2 of the same symbol and do 1 damage to him.
And sort of in a vague hope to try and ward that off, I play Skin of Brass, but of course that's not what it's for. Yeah. But I could, in future, the Gorehulk will be harder to kill.
I then play Zone of Control so that whilst my fighters are on those feature tokens, they will not be easy to kill.
This is bad news for me. This is starting to, they're tough cookies to kill.
They're starting to tank up a bit. And then after that, I put Putrid Vomit onto Golgok because I want to start making some ranged attacks without having to expend my fighters with charges, as I only have 2 now. On my first turn, I then attack with Golgok against Herax and completely miss. I only have to do 1 damage to Herax and then both of my fighters will inspire, but it's not to be.
So I play Powerful Hatred on Dromm because he's going to make an attack soon and he gives him some cleave options, and Sharpened by Rage on Gorehulk to try and hopefully get supports in somewhere down the line. But I immediately charge the Gorehulk into Golgok and miss completely.
A little bit of a reprieve for me there because I feel like I'm on the ropes. On my second activation, I charge with Golgok to try and get him away from the melee that's going on and attack Herax again with his ranged attack. I hit with a double crit, which Robin cannot block because you only have 1 defense dice.
I do.
If you do manage 2 crits on that, I would be rather miffed. And I do 1 damage, which does then inspire Golgok and Septimus, meaning they're both now rolling 2 defense dice.
But I sort of have the last laugh on this because I can score Untouchable Fury because you haven't killed me.
Yes.
I'm still wondering why I play Powerful Hatred on Dromm and then charge with the Gorehulk in the previous power step, but we'll gloss over that. So then Dromm does make use of that cleave. He comes charging in. I get 1 hammer.
But I roll 2 dodge, and as I'm on guard because I'm on that feature hex, I stop it completely.
And I'm starting to realise the futility of attacking these Nurgle fighters in this game.
You made the classic mistake of attempting a land battle with a Nurgle force standing on objectives on guard.
Yeah.
On my third activation, I make an attack action with Septimus on the Gorehulk, as he is just close enough, and I get one hammer with Robin failing to get a shield.
The Gorehulk is dead. The Gorehulk is dead.
And I get 2 glory for that, because he is a large target.
Yeah.
I then put the hulking physique onto Gulgok, which gives him an extra wound and extra damage, but -1 move.
And make him even harder to kill.
He's pretty scary right now.
So I'm going to try to say I can't use the Gorehulk anymore. Dromm's charged, so I'm going to have to use Herax. So she attacks Septimus. I roll 1 hammer.
And I get 1 dodge and a double assist, and he's on a cover hex, which means I have completely stopped your attack. On my 4th and final go, I attack Herax back with Septimus, and I roll 1 hammer.
But I do get a shield.
Yeah, so I do push you back, drive you back out of the way.
Because my attack hasn't been very successful this turn, I do play Bloody Worshipper on Dromm, so that he will inspire next turn. So I'm a bit lucky, because I scored Worshipped in battle for 2 glory, which I wouldn't have if you pushed.
I just shoved him out the other way.
If you shoved him the other way, I wouldn't have scored that. And I had I realised that, I wouldn't have charged you. But I think I can't remember. But
I think you said you would have just run the other way in that situation.
Yeah, I think I would have. Yeah,
it was an easy 2 glory.
Yeah, I discard my other 2 objectives because they're about killing people, and as I've just proved, killing people ain't happening.
Not with the Nurgle.
So I draw up 5 power cards as well.
I score Faithful Reward because my remaining fighters are alive, but I failed to score either of the others because Fecula was killed and I have no 3 damage attacks coming my way. So I get rid of both of those. I then draw 3 objectives and all 5 power cards.
I have to say, if you do want me to do 3 damage attacks, you have to not kill the person who's got one.
Yeah, kind of a little bit of a mistake on my part there, but I was just trying to not die and take out the scariest, biggest things.
That's fair enough. So going into round 3, the scores are 7-5. I'm actually not very hopeful. I know I've edged in front, but I'm not very hopeful at this point because you guys are so hard to kill and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and my fighters are actually knocking out 3 damage each now with 3 or 2 hammers, so they are now pretty tough. I'm almost tempted to just ignore my objectives and go after your fighter to just try and stop you from scoring more glory by killing you all.
So looking at my objectives, I've got lethal defences, which would involve me having to kill somebody. Probably not going to score that. But consecrated blood is possible if you're not holding any objectives. But you like objectives in this game,
just sitting all over them.
So I'm just not sure how this is going to go, and I have to hold 1 too. So I'm not overly confident on that. Bold Sortie, score this immediately after an activation step in which a friendly fighter's charge action began on a feature token in my territory. I've got Tanglebriar in hand, so maybe I can do something with that. What else have I got? Take your positions, choose up to 2 friendly fighters in my territory other than my leader, and push each chosen fighter 1 hex. Well, could be useful for if there is a feature token in my territory I can get to. Brazen Edge Fury again enables me to do possibly some cleave or re-rolling dice and using up blood type tokens once I've inspired Dromm maybe. The Melding Stone, if I can get on some objectives, I can maybe get some of the cover shenanigans that Pete's been enjoying during round 2, and then the Stalwart Sentinel, I can't be pushed while I'm on a feature token within 1 hex of no one's territory.
I look at my last set of cards and I'm still very unimpressed by them. My objectives wise, I've got Chosen Warriors, which I score if there are 1 or more surviving friendly fighters. Well, I should be able to do that, and 3 or more enemy fighters are out of action. I'm not rating my chances of that one, but that's all I've got to go for really. I have a Surge card, which is scored immediately when a friendly fighter holding an objective is the target of an attack and is not driven back. Now, I do have Gulgok on an objective, so there's maybe some hope for that one. But the last card is
because he can't be driven back, can he?
He cannot, yes. But then I've got Strength of the Devoted, which is scoring the 3rd end phase if no friendly fighters are out of action. It's 3 glory that I just will never be able to score because old Fecus is dead. My power cards are much better. I've got an upgrade for Fecula, which is no use to me, and a spell. So I've effectively got 3 power cards in hand. One is Gifted Sight, which is something I can give to someone for free if I kill somebody, or I can put it on. It means that blocked hexes no longer block my line of sight. Not much use for my fighters. I've got Dousing Limb, which enables me to scatter 2 hexes after a fighter's activation, which might come in handy. And I've got Steady Advance, which enables me to push up to 2 of my fighters 1 hex. So I've got some movement shenanigans.
That's a good card.
I've got some shenanigans there, but am I going to be able to score any glory out of it? I guess we'll find out. Rolling off for round 3, I get Hammer Time.
Pete's favourite time, but not when I get a double crit.
Another double crit. I'm just saying, that's another double crit.
Yeah, so but they don't really count when they're the roll off. Anyway, so I am going to go first.
Yeah.
And I immediately inspire Dromm. Still not learning my lesson from round 2. I attack Septimus, but do nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
I think this was the reverse this time. I think did I get to pick hammers or swords and roll the reverse?
I think so, yeah. There was definitely some bitterness involved in that one. On my go, I decide to attack Herax with Septimus. I get 1 hammer.
But I roll a crit.
Flipping crits. So I get nothing there.
That was an important roll, that one. I play Brazen Edge Fury to give myself some cleave and the possibility of re-rolling some dice.
Ooh. I then play Steady Advance and I shove Septimus away so that you can't hit him without having to charge him just to rob you of those multiple attacks.
Yeah, but I then curiously play Tanglebriar and places it underneath Dromm.
Oh, very strange.
Which staggers him.
Very strange.
Pete at this point doesn't know what I've got in my hand.
Because that now means as he's staggered, I get to re-roll attacks against Dromm, so I can't see any benefit right now to this.
So I charge with Dromm, I get a crit and a sword.
Which does make it 3 damage. But I get a crit and a shield. Oh. But the shield doesn't count because he's got cleave on, which I completely forgot about to start with. It does reduce the damage by 1 though.
Yep. But I do, and I drive him into the lethal hex to do another damage.
Yes, Septimus has had 3 wounds and only has 1 left.
So maybe it was worth attacking these nerdlings. But I do score bold sortie, playing to my objective, you see.
Cunning.
Charging out of that Tanglebriar.
I then put the Dowsing Limb onto Septimus, which means I'll be able to start scattering him around after his activations. I'm hoping I might be able to use some movement shenanigans to get him into a place I need him to be able to make some attacks.
And then I put the Melding Stone onto Dromm, which pops him into a cover hex.
On my second go, I put Septimus on guard, and then afterwards I can scatter him. I don't scatter him both hexes though, because it wasn't the best roll, but I do shove him forwards into the cover hex.
Yeah, at this point I realised trying to attack either of Pete's warriors is a fool's errand. I've only got Herax who can move. It's just not worth it. So, a little bit sneaky here.
Sneaky.
I'm going to try and go Pete off the objective because only Go got on an objective.
Yeah.
And I put Herax onto an objective because if I can hold it to the end of the game, I can score Consecrated in Blood.
I then attempt to attack Dromm again with Septimus and miss completely.
Oh, and that was a clutch moment for me.
I think it was definitely a point which started to nail that final coffin nail in.
Yeah. One of the reasons I also moved Herax away is because I drew into the card, which means I've got to have somebody alive with 2 blood tithe counters on them. And if you if you basically have to charge, and it just made it harder for you to kill both of them.
Definitely wouldn't have been able to do that. Yeah. Unless I had some phenomenal rolls.
Yeah, in my fourth go, I just discarded lethal defences and picked up a new objective.
Yeah, unlikely to score that at this stage in the game, considering how many wounds I've got left, which is mostly all of them on most of my fighters. On my final go, I charged with Golgok. I took the bait and I didn't realise it was all a setup from Robin. It turns out I did charge him too far as well because he only has a movement of 2, not 3.
Is that because of his stolid bulk?
It is,
yes. Yeah, okay.
However, I get 2 hammers and Robin.
But I got a crit!
Yeah, so that's kind of the dice gods punishing me there for not remembering all of my negatives.
Because I managed to draw you off the objective and had the bonus of you completely whiffing the attack, I do score Consecrated in Blood for 2 glory and a worthy offering because I did have fighters alive with 2 blood tithe counters.
Taking a total to 11. I was on 6 before and I'm still on 6. I didn't manage to score any of my final objectives.
Yeah, and I'm really surprised how that's ended up. I mean, I was really lucky that you missed the attack against Herax. Although you shouldn't have been able to reach it, yeah. So,
there is that.
But I thought I would score a worthy offering. I didn't expect to score Consecrated in Blood.
So that was our third and final game. The first one went all your way, I think. The second one mostly didn't go all your way, which by default meant it sort of went mine. The third game felt a bit more of a mix.
It was definitely, I think it showed the strengths and limitations of both decks.
Yes.
Actually, it was quite hard to score glory, but it was also very hard to kill your fighters.
Yeah, and I think I kind of forgot some of my objectives in there, especially obviously wanting to not get driven off objectives. So I need to try and make myself remain a viable target for you. But then I killed your biggest fighter. I then basically made myself into small moving towers, which meant you just weren't even going to bother going after me, which stopped me from being able to score a lot of my
large
glory.
Number of attacks. Actually, I'm a slow learner, but I mean, certainly at the end, I was like, well, there was no point in trying to take you out.
Yeah.
Because But
just
there's
never
just
gonna
no
happen.
point.
Yeah.
So because I think you had one vaguely tempting target, and you moved him onto a cover hex and put him on guard or something. It's
Yeah.
like, well, now I'm
I think only single assists were fails for me at that
it's
point.
utterly pointless, and actually, it's more important that I stay alive to try
Yeah.
and score some glory.
Yeah, I did have the problem. I think early on in the game, it started to come apart for me when Fecula died. You had that ping damage card, which helped you take her out. And I forgot that I need to stay out of that middle range, because a lot of your cards, Dromm's cards and the Fortress cards, all specialise in being there. So I needed to stay out of it. Forgot about that. Fecula died. And I think that probably takes my potential glory total from 20 to about 12 at most.
Yeah, that is a limitation of the deck. I suppose you have to keep Fecula out of the way, maybe. I
think I should have just kept her back, not tried to score Sleepless Sentries, just accept the fact that I wasn't going to score that card and just keep everybody alive.
Because in the other game, I couldn't. You managed to get the defensive cards onto them, and I just couldn't kill anybody.
Yeah,
and that obviously, I need to kill some people to make my deck work, and it was bad enough only killing Fecula. But in the middle game, I didn't kill anybody. I just didn't score any glory.
But in the first game, he killed everybody.
I did. I must have had some luckier dice in that game.
I think. Well, I think again it was the cards. The card you played at the very start, which meant I had to go towards you.
Yeah.
In the first game, completely screw it, because I think I had Sacred Trilobe in that game, and I was going to score it, and then you played that card, and I couldn't get to the objective, and then I tried moving Septimus forwards, and then I realised that stopped me from doing other things, and it all just went bad, and it was terrible and horrible. In this game, I felt like I had a few more options, but my objectives came out in a terrible order, which didn't help me, especially after I redrew them all, and I got 3 terrible cards again. So
it was fun to play a best of 3. We don't do it very often. It was over 3 weeks, so when we say we can't remember what cards we had, it's because it was like 3 weeks.
The first game was a month ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Before Christmas or something like that.
But it was fun to see how it all would all fall out. And as I said to you, 1-1 is almost is preferable to 2-1.
Yeah,
nobody loses.
Exactly. Everyone's a winner.
Yeah,
everyone gets to go home happy.
But in this case, I go home happy.
Boom! But you're already home, so he's just happy.
Just happy.
Hopefully you enjoyed this new format. It's something we're trying out. We're keen to see what we can do to improve the games and make them more appealing to you viewers out there.
Yeah, let us know what you think, whether you like them live and raw, whether you like them with Pete's voiceover, or whether you like this kind of to and fro vague card analysis of what we played.
I quite like doing this, because for us, we can look back at our decisions and we can sit and go, that was a terrible idea, I don't know what I was thinking of there, or I had a plan, and then you can see it slowly fall apart piece by piece as all my dice fail and all my cards just give up on me. Yeah,
which is most games for you, isn't it?
Yeah, never mind.
But we'll be back soon in the Underworld with some new matchups.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the new warband and the new
what is it? What's it going to be?
Yeah, I want to try some new stuff, because we've played Fearsome Fortress a lot. I kind of feel like, I don't know about you people, I kind of feel like the old Harrow Deep Nether Maze decks aren't very good. And you just want to play
nearly always those three.
The 3 new ones.
Yeah.
So we need a 4th to add some more variation.
But of course, every time a new one comes out, not only have you got one warband that you can try with 4 decks, you've got 4 decks you can try with every other warband. Loads of new combinations.
Exciting. So we're loving our Underworlds at the moment, so do like and subscribe so to follow it all, and we'll see you soon in the Gnarlwood.
Bye!